Welcome into the LMU men's basketball report for January 23rd. I'm Scott Earl, and once again in here with head coach Josh Schertz to recap you on the past week for the Wrestlers and the week upcoming. Coach, like we talked about last week, 2 road games, another little tough stretch of the schedule going over to Tusculum on Wednesday night and then making the longest trip in the conference to Coker on Saturday. But you guys come out with 2 pretty lopsided victories again, 22-point win at Tusculum and then a 37-point win at Coker. So just talk about the week a little bit and your assessment of it.
Obviously, productive. I think anytime you go on the road and get wins in the conference, it's a good sign. I think we've as a group we're doing some things better. Obviously, a lot of areas to improve on, but you can see growth in certain areas. Guys are starting to to play a little more consistently. It's not where it needs to be, but it's certainly better than it was in terms of preparation, in terms of the day-to-day stuff you got to do, and then going out and executing. When the ball goes up there. So you go in, and Tusculum's obviously a very dangerous team. I thought we did some good things against them on the defensive side of the ball in particular, and then you go play Coker, and Coker's a team that really is a team that I think you look at them and they're playing really hard for Eric. They've been in a lot of games. I was told the team going in there, obviously they had real chances. Carson Newman's, I think, a 1-point game inside the final minute down there with them. They led Wingate at halftime, had opportunities, led Lenore Ryan the game before by 19, lost by 5. So Eric's got them, competing and really playing exceptionally hard. And I thought we came out and really, after the first few minutes, started to play some good basketball on both sides of the floor. And we have some hiccups and some things we got to do better, but it was a good week for us.
And one of the things we've seen quite a bit this year is you guys have been quick starters, had some great first halves this year, which has really a lot of times been the difference in games. The thing you started preaching after the Tusculum game was you just wanted to see 40 minutes of competitive basketball and no letting up the gas. And at Coker, it seemed like you at least got a little bit closer to that, up 25 at the half, and then really still kind of dominated the pace of play in the second half. After the game, what you talked about, you thought that things had gotten a little bit more competitive, a little more energetic. You still think that after watching the tape?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where to beat the best teams, you gotta put together a 40-minute game. You can't beat the best teams in spurts. We've been a team that's played really well in spurts, and a lot of times those spurts have been enough to get the job done. But as you're looking forward, I think 2 things that we have to do. In terms of that, or we have to start putting together those 40-minute games. And I think for the most part against Coker, I thought we came out, we're down 6-2, and even as we got that first media time, and even in the middle, I think we went on a 15-0 run, but a lot of that was probably Coker got some good looks and missed them, and we were kind of sloppy, but got some things done offensively. And then I think after that, kind of the first maybe 6-7 minutes, I wasn't thrilled, but then after that, I thought we did really play pretty well, pretty consistent, and it's hard. I think it's one of those things where when you have a large lead, it is difficult sometimes for guys to maintain their focus. It doesn't mean it's acceptable, but when you're up 25 at the half, or you're up 22 at the half, or you're up whatever, kids have a tendency to relax and to certainly play the score versus just trying to play good basketball. And we've seen it happen where it's been huge swings. The Anderson game and the Wingate game come to mind. I think we were up 21 in the first half on Wingate, and with about 3.5 to go, and you look up middle of the second half, it's a 6-point game. Now Wingate's really good, but we certainly we have a tendency when things are going well for guys to really offensively, the ball sticks, shot selection becomes horrendous, and then the defensive side, we lose all physicality. We become a sieve, defensively, and giving up angles at the rim and everything else, and so it's really a bad combination, and we allow teams to kind of get their way back in, and then we got to fight our way back. So, at the end of the day, I think we're making progress towards it. I think the guys understand why it's important to do that, and we've got a lot of guys in our program that are playing a lot that are first-year guys here. And so understanding what goes into winning and how to do that and how to compete and why it's important to put together 40 minutes, because again, that's what it takes when you're playing the very best teams. You got to play a complete game from tip to buzzer and do everything right. I think they're starting to grasp, again, those things, as well as the attention to detail and why those things are so important to being a good basketball team.
One of a couple first-year guys I want to talk about first. I want to start with Chris Perry, a guy that we knew was ultra-talented when he came in here. When we talked in the preseason and early in the season, he was still kind of trying to grasp the system, trying to figure it out, and we were trying to figure out how to use him as well. But now it really seems like he's kind of hit his stride here, at least 23 points in 4 of his last 6 games. The reigning AstroTurf SAC Player of the Week. So what have you seen from him so far, and what has been going right for him?
Well, I think Chris is really has shown a lot of improvement relative to what we do. Anytime you come from a different system, you played somewhere else for 3 years, and you come here, we have the way we do things, and it doesn't make it. It's not better than anywhere else, and it's just different. And so for him to kind of figure out what we do conceptually, offensively, what we want to do conceptually, defensively, it's certainly different on both sides of the ball than what he had been used to. And I think a lot of it was him understanding, why these things are important. I didn't even realize until I went back and was watching the film of our first game with Carson Newman that he didn't start. Again, he wasn't starting those first 5 or 6 games of the year, but he's come a long way. I think he's really worked hard to get himself in better shape. You can see he can play more minutes. He's been able to really, I think that's been probably the biggest thing. The 2 biggest things for his play have been, I think he's really worked hard conditioning wise, and you see it in terms of being able to play now, with Emmanuel out. He's playing 30 minutes plus a lot of games, and to be able to do that, he couldn't have done that early in the season. I think from a physical standpoint and from a mental concentration standpoint, he couldn't have handled it, and he's really worked hard in both those areas to up the ante in both those things. But and then I think for us, certainly understanding how to play with a true low post presence. Chris is a versatile guy. He can step away and play on the perimeter, and he handles the ball well, and he can shoot it out to certainly 15, 16 feet. And but for us, we haven't really had Emmanuel's obviously a great player, just totally different than Chris. He's not a guy that you're going to throw it to down the block and those type of things. And so for our guys, we haven't really had that type of guy since Vinny Bailey. Where you have a guy you're going to kind of an anchor in the post, you're going to look to throw it to. So I think it's both. I think those things. Chris's improvement in terms of his physical conditioning and his ability to concentrate and understand what we're trying to do, and then obviously our guys understanding, hey, he's he a lot of times when he touches the ball, good things happen. He's shooting about 69% from the field. The more we can get it to him, we don't have to force feed him. We got other good players around him, but we get it to him, and good stuff happens. Whether it's him scoring, and the good thing for the guys is he's a willing passer. He's not a guy who's selfish or is trying to just get shots up. So that works well for us.
Well, and then you talked about Emmanuel still working his way back into the lineup and stuff like that. Well, while he's been out, Trayvon Shaw stepped into the starting lineup too, and played a pretty big role the last four of his last 5 games, hit double figures, and really a guy too that early in the season kind of figuring out how to use him, his different skill set. Now it seems like he's kind of starting to figure it out too. So what have you seen from him as he's improved throughout the season?
Yeah, Trey's really has really worked hard to try to figure out what we do and how we play. And I think early in the year, a lot like Chris, it's hard for guys again coming from somewhere else where they understand basketball a certain way and they play a certain way, and then you come here and again, no better than anywhere else, but just different, and figuring out our system, what we're trying to do on both sides of the ball, what we value, and that may be different than what others somewhere else values. And Trey really struggled the first half of the year. He's a guy that's talented. He's a guy that can really score. We knew that. He can score at really all 3 levels. He can get the rim and finish a little bit. He's certainly a terrific mid-range shooter, and he can knock down the 3. He's got range, and but just I think for him, like you said, opportunity has grown for all those guys with playing without Emmanuel and playing without Deshaun for 5 games. I think everybody's opportunity in that top 7 grew. Not only those 2, but guys like Scoot and Hunter and Paul, etc. And so for them, I think that's a big thing, is that they're getting to play through a little bit more. But also for Trayvon, I think he's just really committed himself to trying to figure out, what we're doing and buy in and do what we're asking to do on both sides of the ball. It's been much less freelance, much less mental breakdowns. He's certainly starting to play winning basketball, and he's a guy that, like I said, every day is coming in now and trying to. I think the biggest adjustment is probably for a lot of these guys is the attention to detail that we put into things, and understanding why those details are important. And Trey's really made a massive improvement from November until now in terms of that. And hopefully, a big reason we're playing better certainly is those first year guys, Trey, Chris, Deshaun, Scoot, are playing. They're much better players now than they were in November relative to what we do.
Well, now we look ahead to a really big week coming up here for you guys. Starts on Wednesday night, home against Carson Newman. The second go around with them, wrap up the regular season series against Carson Newman. We remember, obviously, the game at Jefferson City, a classic 103 to 101, or 109 to 111 overtime loss. They hit a game winner there in overtime, but.
Alternative facts, I thought we won that game.
Yeah, well, no. that is a big storyline going on. So
we could just say we won it.
We could say we won it and go with it. But the score sheet says otherwise, and the true facts say otherwise, unfortunately. But Carson Newman obviously playing some of their best basketball of the season right now. Won 6 of their last 7, and really particularly on fire offensively. Have 2 of the best players in the conference, and we know that already. So just talk about the challenge of facing Carson Newman.
Well, it's. I mean, look, they're really, really good, and they're playing great. When you look at last week, they played two good opponents in Anderson and Newberry, who beat us, and all they did last week was average 105 points a game, shoot 65% from the field, 52% from the three, and out rebound them by a combined 35. They've won 6 of their last 7. Have a 2-point loss to Wingate is the only thing that's sprinkled in there. They've got the total package. They've got really, great players. There's not 2 guys in the league outside of our own team that I have more respect for than Charles Clark and Sawyer Williams in terms of how good they are, how hard they play, how consistent they are. I mean, they just go about their business. They're not a lot of me stuff. They just go out and they just play their butts off, and they do it every single night. And they're 2 of the best players in the country at their positions. There's no question about it. They've got good scheme. They've got great coaching. Chuck and his staff do an outstanding job. It's a huge challenge for us. A lot to prepare for. We could not guard them at their place. And I mean, a lot of times it was, transition, first shot, we struggled, and on the off chance we did get in a miss, we never got a defensive rebound. So, they really took it to us in Jefferson City. We're going to need to have a great couple days of preparation, and we'll have to be at our absolute best on Wednesday night to have a chance. I don't think there's any question about that. They're an excellent team, one of the best in the league, and I think really playing as well as anybody in the region right now. I mean, obviously Queens is tremendous, but I think Carson Newman, the way they're playing here the last few weeks, they're playing as well as anybody.
Well, and then, obviously, one of the things you talked about is early. You're a much better team now than you were on November 22nd. But at the same time, Carson Newman's a much better team, it appears, since then, too. So what really are the keys to the game? We know, obviously, slowing down Charles Clark and Sawyer Williams is easier said than done, averaging more than 40 points per game. But what are the keys to the game?
Well, obviously, a lot of water under the bridge between November 22nd and January, 25th when we play. So, I think both teams are significantly better. With Carson Newman, I don't think there's any secrets. I mean, you have to try to, as best you can, control those 2. And we struggled with that at their place. And then, you have to do a good job on the others. And they've got, they don't just have Clark and Williams, who are 2 great players. But when you look at them, Sean Jones has 10 double-doubles, leading the league in rebounding. He absolutely killed us. He made a ton of big plays to end regulation. To hit a tough shot in regulation, a couple tough shots in overtime. He really was tremendous. Malik Abraham with the game winner in Jefferson City. is one of the elite shooters in the league. A tremendous. He's not just a one-dimensional guy, but he's elite shooter. You got those four, and then they got great role players. Pangalo, Holmes. They just have so many guys. Reese Anderson does a nice job for them. They come in with a lot of different guys that are helping them. But I think the key is usually it is with them is going to be we got to play with great energy and we got to play with great toughness. I thought for sure in Jefferson City I thought we played with really good energy. I thought we played really hard, and I think both teams will play really hard on Wednesday. I think they absolutely out-toughed us. The first game, they dominated the loose balls, 50-50 balls. They dominated the offensive glass. They just physically manhandled us, and that's going to be it to me. If you want to boil it down to one thing, is can we match them physically? Because they absolutely wore us out. Sean Jones, Sawyer Williams, I think Charles Clark averaged 14 rebounds a game last week, and he averaged 27-14. He's likely, I'm not going to one to forecast, but I would project he'll be the AstroTurf Player of the Week this week. I think he averaged 27-14 and like 7. So, anyway, you have a lot. They present a tremendous amount of challenges. And then they're mixing their defenses, playing man, playing zone, and so we'll have to execute there. But it's going to take. Like I said, we have a lot to prepare for them, personnel-wise, scheme-wise, the whole thing, and we'll have to be at our absolute best on Wednesday night to have a chance.
And don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but then on Saturday you head over to Lenore Ryan, a tough place historically to play. That was a very lopsided game the first time around, but Lenore Ryan, like Carson Newman, playing a lot better now, won 4 of their last 5. So talk about the challenge of heading into Hickory to face the Bears.
Well, Everett's done a really good job there. You look at them; there's a totally different team than the one we played here in early December, or late November. I guess it was the 30th. Just a completely different team. Darian Evans. I haven't watched them yet. I really started my study on them yet, but I've obviously followed what's going on, and Darian Evans has just been playing tremendous basketball. Senior, he's a guy that has given us fits over the years. He in the NCAA tournament last year in the regional championship was tremendous, and he's a guy that's very versatile, plays really hard. They've got tremendous shooting. They've got pieces back from last year. Reed Lucas, obviously we know what he's capable of doing. Guys like Billy Bales, Jacquez Chambers seems like a double-double every single night at the 4. He's had a tremendous run here, and like you said, they're sitting at 8-4 in the league. They take care of their business at home. Shuford's one of the hardest places to play. It's obviously they always have good players, which is the hardest thing. Their fans are really they get great crowds, and then obviously it's usually somewhere between 150 and 200 degrees on the court. So it's a nice combination of those 3 things that make it a difficult place to play. So we'll have to. It's a huge week for us. With both matchups, you're playing 2 teams that were in the fight for a lot of things. There's a lot of basketball ahead, but this is to say this isn't a massive week in terms of. From our standpoint, in terms of trying to put ourselves in the mix for some things would certainly be disingenuous. So we'll have to play well, have to prepare well, have to, both teams present different types of challenges, and hopefully we'll go in and, again, just like with Carson Newman, anything less than our best in either one of these games, and we certainly have no chance of winning. So that's going to be our focus, really try to prepare well, try to tighten some things up. We got to tighten some areas up between now and Wednesday, and certainly as moving forward to Saturday. So looking forward to the challenge.